So I'm talking with community activist Isaac Abraham. So, what is the latest? I last spoke to you, I think, a couple of months ago, and we were speaking about crime. The crime now is so out of control, it makes the crime then of what we were speaking about look like peanuts. What is the answer to what's going on? Because everybody's screaming bail reform, bail reform. The cops say bail reform. The bottom line is we have people getting beaten up in the streets, stabbed, murdered. So many cases are directly related to bail reform, but what is the answer? I mean, what are we supposed to do as citizens? What's your, you've been around the block a long time. What would you suggest for people to do to either get bail reform changed? And if that's not going to happen, I mean, what's the answer? Start beating the criminals up in the hell with the police?
Well, first of all, welcome. Yet we haven't spoken in a while. In the English calendar, I would say we haven't spoken in a year. And since then, a lot has changed. We have a new governor, and we have a new mayor. And as much as we tried, at least I tried holding back on making any comments and giving a shot at it. But when you look at it now, and the governor is in there already, I think 4 to 5 months, maybe more. The mayor is in there already almost a month and a half fully, but he already won in November and knew that he won the primaries already in July or August. So all these plans that he had a dream, and it ended up that we all had a nightmare. So in reality, now we understand why 3 out of 10 voters didn't vote for him. But for the ones that didn't vote for him, the votes ended up going for him. So now my question is, why go out there and vote for one when it's going to go to 2, and the person that you voted for governor is no longer governor, but now if somebody came in by default and is screwing up the state even more, so now she has a partner as a mayor. Between them, they're screwing up the state and the city. It's not only with crime, it's with the economy. It's not something that I predicted. I'm not a forecaster. But this is something that if you know the people and you keep on reading the way the agenda is going with the Assembly, with the Senate, now with the new City Council, we are in deep trouble. But as I just an hour ago sent out a statement by Rabbi Victor Miller, and he made it so clear, and it's something that I have been echoing on my own, not knowing that he did this way back in somewhere in the 1980s.
1981, it said, yeah.
The blaming of all these problems are the Jews. And I'll keep on stressing it. Our leaders should be destroyed. There's nothing less than that. I'm not going to mince words, but they should be destroyed mentally and physically. Because they walk around and the elected officials are there with the perception that after every crime there's going to be a meeting, and they're going to pick and choose who shows up at that meeting. They're going to pick and choose who sets the agenda. And God forbid, if you criticize them, you go up on a blacklist, and that has been happening every single administration because of these Jewish leaders. So my message, before I even get into any details, is if you people, voters out there, want these leaders to control your life, control your agenda, decide if your children, wife, parents are safe on the streets or not, are being trusted into administrations where you don't know if you're going to make it home, then go ahead. Keep on supporting them. Keep on voting for them. Keep on reading the Twitters, which just doesn't stop. It's vomiting time already to see the same Jewish skunks at the same table, different faces, different dates. It's just like Chad Gadol. After every crime, there's a meeting. And after a swastika, there's another meeting. And then there's a local meeting in precincts. Then there's a big general meeting with leaders, only special invited people. And you think they have brains. They're sitting on their brains. And you really think the results are going to be out there? Well, let's take one in particular. about 6 or 7 months ago under this knuckleheads administration, which the same leaders praised as being a fantastic mayor, and he's going to fight crime, and he helped the Jewish community with circumcision, with all this. What a joke. All of a sudden, when the recommendation came, when asked, how do we stop these bias crimes? One of the issues that was raised is that you put decoy cops in these acute areas where Jews are being attacked. Nothing. Zero. We'll go to the second item. If you take a look of how many meetings in the last 4 years, put that on one scale, and then put on the other scale how many attacks there have been. I don't know if it's 1 for 1, 2 for 1, or 3 for 1, but that's all they have. So these guys, these leaders, these fake skunk leaders must be going out there or going home and saying, God, please help me. I haven't made the news in 2 days. I haven't been photographed in 2 days. Can somebody please write a swastika on a truck or attack the Jews so we can have another meeting, either in the local precinct where the answer is going to be, no, we're not going to tolerate this in this community. There's no way in the world we're going to tolerate this in this community. Not in the city. Oh, not really in the city. And does everybody know, can please help the 90 precinct help us identify these guys? We're going to go out on the street and identify. Let me tell the 90 precinct, if I go out on the street looking for these guys, you know what they're going to be identified by? By a tag on their toe. That's how they're going to be identified. They're not going to be, what about, I'm going to help you look, identify who. And what happens after they're identified?
Oh, then we're going to hold them to the full extent of the law. Can you explain what that is?
Sure. The district attorney of Brooklyn hasn't responded yet to tell us in the 4 years of all these attacks, first of all, the names and the addresses where these people live, if they live in the neighborhood, if they live in government subsidy property, it should be given out. And I asked for this many, many times. Zero. Nothing comes back. None of them have spent the day in jail. Okay, so now let's blame the judge. Then let's blame bail reform. Let's blame who's responsible for bail reform, if not some active Jewish leaders with brains. I mean, really brains. They figured this out. We got to find. Then one guy says, no, I'm not doing local, state, and violent crimes. I'm in the business of doing federal bail reform. So that's white-collar crime. I mean, we're being played like yo-yos. Yep. When they won, they split us up. When they won, they let us down.
Last week's hate crime, they refused to give the name with the excuse saying, sorry, he's a juvenile. He's only 17. But on the bail reform, he knows who the victim is. This makes no sense. This is a dying.
Absolutely correct. But let's just keep on going. Then we got the assembly. Then we got the Senate, and now we have a new mayor. So we're not going to get any help from both. Oh, and I'm sure some of these, let me be very careful when I say this. One of these Jewish prostitutes leading organizations, they're nothing more than prostitutes because they sell themselves for government funds that they get or for the little publicity they get, and they're putting all our lives in danger. I'm not going to do anything. So Hafel is not going to do anything. The Assembly is not going to do anything. The Senate is not going to do anything. But some jerks drive up to Albany. We're going to meet these leaderships, and there's another meeting. If need to be, we'll sit down with the leadership here in the city or another meeting. And now we have the mayor. So let me be a little careful with the mayor. Because everybody reports he sounds good. He sounds terrific. Well, I remember Koch standing at the foot of the Brooklyn Bridge when there was a strike directing traffic. He tried to be a cheerleader. That's very good. Mr. Adams, Mayor Adams, you're no cheerleader. You're not putting any. If you were a bank, I would deposit $1 into of my money in that. Maybe you can invest in Bitcoin, which the minute you invested lost money, but I would deposit $1 in a bank that you would run, because nobody takes your word seriously even. It's a comedy. And you're trying to play with our nerves. And I got to stand up for the Asian community. They have no leadership. All they have is somebody suggested to them again, let's go out on the street with somebody holding the sign. We're not going to tolerate this. We're not going to tolerate this. We're not going to tolerate it. Well, it's high time that the black community, the African American community, which is 100% of the criminal that attacked the Jews, stand up there and state that. And the next time we apprehend a black thug that's attacked a Jew or a woman or a child, his mother will say, my son came home, he had his whole face rearranged, and she's not going to tolerate that. Maybe will make some sense. But the cops are not going to do anything. That's the other part of the assembly line. Why bother? If I'm going to arrest them, somebody's going to photograph it if I arrested them according to the protocols that they trained me. And if they didn't, I'm waiting for a lawsuit. Now when I bring him to court, he has got a rap sheet longer as the yellow pages, and the judge says, okay, I understand you stole from the supermarket, but you needed it for baby food and etc. You know what? Come back in 3 months from now. Now he goes out there, in the same day he can go do 3 times in front of a judge, and 3 times he will be released. And if that continues to happen, and our Jewish leaders, like Rabbi Victor Miller says, don't stand up there when they're at the table and say, enough of this crap, enough of these meetings. They're not the victims because they all have cell numbers from every CO, from every community affairs guy, from every law enforcement. They're going to respond to them 10 times faster. They're going to respond to me if I'm a victim. But God forbid if I'm a victim and it's going to be from somebody that went out on parole or bail reform, I'll spend every dime that I have to trace the guy down. He'll regret the day. That's going to be called street justice or self-defense. But how much longer? How much longer can this mayor just yap and yap and yap and yap and do what? Let's not forget, no matter what he says, he was a rebel the minute he entered the police department. He was a rebel as a sergeant. He won as a rebel, as borough president, and as an assemblyman or a state senator. This is where he came from. So he's still a rebel. 100 police officers, white sergeants, black, whatever he calls them, he didn't create that to make life better. He made it to make his voice louder. That's all that it is. So let's not forget, rebels, he's not going to get through no matter if he meets 1,000 rap singers. That's where he's going to go. Instead of meeting 100 victims, he meets rappers. Why? So what about the schools? Oh, then we have a new gimmick. Let me get to the new gimmick. Niederman's idea, let's educate the kids in public school. Well, Niederman tried that over here in PS16.